have everyone gather in and join us. We are going to kick off today's webinar for the Community Foundations for Clean Energy Initiative. The disclaimer right now for those of you who have joined CMF webinars in the past, on this one you are not on mute. So please press that button on your phones now if you can, so that we can reduce background noise as we are recording this so people can refer back to the conversations later on. So I'll give everyone a second to do that now. And please do not put us on hold either, as we will hear your lovely hold music, and I cannot mute you on this end on that and with that because we can't detect who it is. All right. So welcome everyone. This is Andrea Judd. I am the program coordinator for the Council of Michigan Foundations, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We're very excited to have a great group of presenters to offer you advice as you are preparing your RFP for the Community Foundations for Clean Energy Initiative. Just a few logistics items as we are getting ready for today. As I mentioned, you are not on mute, so please mute yourself on the other end so we don't get that background noise. Please use the chat box on the lower left-hand side if you have any logistics questions, and also if you have some questions and you don't feel comfortable or you can't take yourself off mute. But we do want to encourage you to participate in dialogue. So to do that, what I'm going to ask you to do today is there's a few options. On the chat side of your screen you will see a raise hand button. If you click that button, what it will do is it will alert myself and the other presenters that you have a question and you would like to be called upon. When you raise your hand, we will call on you, and then we'll ask you to take yourself off mute, ask your question, and then we'll go around and do that to kind of get everyone's questions answered. If you are not on the webinar platform and cannot see that, we will have a few opportunities where people can jump in. We just know that this is a little easier for people who might not be as comfortable jumping right in with a question, and that way we can get to everyone today. And just before we get things kicked off, I would like to do very, very quick introductions just so we know who is here. So I'll call upon some community foundations that I know have some people registered, and then if anyone who is from that community can just quickly say, hi, my name is, and that way we'll be able to hear your voice and know that you're on the other end. So we have Marquette County.
Carl Lindquist, representing the Marquette County Community Foundation. Gail said she would be joining.
Okay. Thank you. Grand Traverse.
Hi, this is David Mengabir, and I'm actually with Consumers Energy today, but I'm the incoming Executive Director of the Grand Traverse Regional Community Foundation. I'm kind of sitting in for Phil Ella today. And also with me are Sarna Saltzman from Seeds and Dan Worth from Groundworks for Resilient Communities.
Excellent, thank you. Petoskey Harbor Springs.
Hi, this is Sarah Ford from the Petoskey Harbor Springs Area Community Foundation.
Thank you, Sarah. And we have M&M. Okay, there might be a few minutes
Well, I'm
late.
not from the Marinette. My name is Cheryl Dietrich, and I'm not from the Marinette Menominee Community Foundation, but I'm with NewCap for the community action agency that serves the area, and we manage the area weatherization program, so helping folks who are low income have energy efficient homes. And I thought there was more from Marinette Menominee, but I'm here.
Okay, they might just be a few minutes late joining, so thank you for joining us. Midland. Melissa, are you there? You might be on mute. I do see you. All right. Well, we'll come back to that. And Charlevoix, I heard Maureen. I do see Melissa posted in the chat. She is here. And I know Maureen was on. Might be on mute. So we'll circle back on that. And then Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan.
Hi, this is Tom Wywoody from the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan in Detroit.
Hi, Tom. And Keweenaw?
Hi, this is Melissa Davis, and I'm with a local nonprofit up here called New Power Tour, but I was pausing because I'm figuring that Jim Vivian from the Keweenaw Community Foundation is also around here somewhere. We're not in the same location.
Okay. He might just be dialing in or on mute. All right. And anyone else that's joining us who I missed?
This is Maureen again. Hi, I took myself off mute. And I have a question. Am I supposed to be seeing something on my computer right now?
Yes, you should see a slide.
I don't see a slide.
Okay. I will shoot you a quick email, Maureen, and I'll get you the link so you can get access to that.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So before we jump in, and I know others might have joined, but we will see you on the participant list. So please just, like I said, raise your hand if you have a question, and use that chat box if you need to reach me for anything. But before I turn it over to Q&A, just a few reminders. If you are on the webinar, you will see the initiative dates up on our screen. Some deadlines to look out for. The RFP is due on October 6th. We will have another one of these webinars on September 15th. And the technical assistance applications are due on August 18th, and you have until September 29th to complete those. We do have on our website a number of resources that you can access regarding stories from community foundations, sample outcomes and metrics, and videos from our previous webinar, which and this webinar will also be posted there when we get the recording edited. So we do hope you will check that out, and that is under grant programs. And if you just search clean energy on our website, you will be able to access that, and that's at michiganfoundations.org. Regarding the technical assistance, we do have assistance available to do a number of different projects. There's a small number of hours, and you can work with our clean energy experts or community leadership experts to complete things such as introducing clean energy approaches and practices, identifying action opportunities, finding data and analyzing that for your local situation, or working with your board or community members on community leadership concepts. So again, those are due on the 18th. We are asking that projects be completed by September 29th. So we hope you will consider doing some work on that. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Janet Topolsky from Aspen CSG to facilitate this webinar.
Great, thanks Andrea. This is Janet Topolsky sitting in Washington, D.C. at the Aspen Institute, and as many of you know, or for those of you who don't, we are working together, our group, the Community Strategies Group of the Aspen Institute, together with Patrice Martin, whose lovely photo you also see on the screen, from Innovative Community Solutions in Michigan. We're working together to assist the Council of Michigan Foundations to coordinate all of the sort of exploration activity in relation to this initiative and the RFP process. So that's why we're on the webinar. And also, although his photo is not up there, is my colleague Travis Green, Program Manager here at Aspen CSG, who many of you have met. Travis, do you at least want to say hey? Say hello, Travis.
Hey, everyone.
So he's there. Next time I'm going to make sure his photo's up here too. So what I'm going to do is just sort of introduce who's available, and we do not have a program or presentation for this webinar. This webinar is about hearing your questions and having us address them. And addressing them, whether they have to do with the potential initiative, whether they have to do with the RFP, whether they have to do with energy, clean energy, questions you have about clean energy strategies. So we have clean energy experts, we have community foundation experts, and we have people who have been working with the Mott Foundation and CMF on the design of the initiative. So by the way, I notice, I'm just double checking here that you've noticed, Andrew, that Ellen Geisler is mentioning that some people are having trouble hearing.
Yes.
So I want to make sure. Okay, so you're addressing that.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so who do we have? We have Patrice Martin, who I mentioned is our colleague in working on coordinating this with CMF. And Patrice is Vice President of Innovative Community Solutions, which is a group in Michigan that is doing work in the fields of community and economic development, building collaborative relationships with community and private foundations and other entities in the local level. And she's been working all across Michigan for quite some time, and has been part of the consulting services network that has been working with community foundations and other types of foundations through CMF, the Council of Michigan Foundations, for quite some time. And it's a joy and pleasure to work with her. We have from Five Lakes Energy, I'm going to start with Laura Sherman, who is a senior consultant there. And she, one of her expertises is wind, or two, I would say, wind and other clean energy sources and business sustainability. Now, she used to work as a policy advisor for one of your state senators. Or, wait, was that a national senator?
Yes, from
yeah, I just
senator
realized
from
that.
Colorado.
Yeah, national
Senate.
senator.
Yep.
I was just assuming it was a state senator, and I said, wait, no, this is from Colorado, so national senator. Okay, great. And so she's with Five Lakes Energy. Also with Five Lakes Energy, we have David Gard, who some of you met because when we did the informational session back in May in Mackinac City, he represented Five Lakes Energy there. He's been with the Michigan Environmental Council for more than a decade. He actually directed a project down in Ohio in Oberlin with an effort to build a resilient low-carbon community in northern Ohio. So he's done the work on the ground, but he's now at Five Lakes Energy. And he's also the board president of Michigan Energy Options, which makes it quite wonderful here because all in the family, we also have John Kinch on the line from Michigan Energy Options. And Michigan Energy Options really sort of emphasizes innovative and collaborative projects between the public and private sector that's focused on, among other things, clean energy and sustainable energy. So I'm also proud to say that all three of these experts, and Patrice actually, I'm not sure, but I certainly know when it comes to our energy experts, they all have deep experience and relationships with both the University of Michigan and Michigan State University, and I'm a graduate of both, so I'm very happy to have them on as colleagues. So with that, we can enter our question and answer period. So we just want to start now hearing any questions that you have, and we're just going to address them as they come. Okay, so who would like to go first? You can raise your hand up in the upper web corner, and we'll call on you, and then unmute yourself and just pose your question, and then we're going to start answering. Who wants to go first? Hello? Cheryl Dietrich, I think, may have a question.
No, I don't. I didn't raise my hand or anything. I'm just sitting here listening. This is my first time in on the call and in the project, and we were just invited in. So I'm listening, trying to figure out where we fit in all this.
Okay. Have you looked at all the materials online yet?
No, Paula, just our Community Foundation Executive Director, sent me everything earlier this week, and I'm just now getting up to speed on the process. I know they've been doing this for some time now. In fact, I believe our Community Foundation got a technical assistance grant.
Okay, great. Sarah Ford has her hand raised. So Sarah, why don't you tell us what your question is, and remind everyone when you come on which foundation you're with.
Thanks, Janet. Hi, this is Sarah Ford from the Petoskey Harbor Springs Area Community Foundation in northern Michigan. And one of the things that we've been considering and have had several conversations with the city of Petoskey, they've had several presentations at the city council meeting, and the city council has given the city manager the directive to pursue potential grant funding so that the city can develop a sustainability plan. We've had several conversations with them and are interested in working with the city of Petoskey. There's a lot of momentum around sustainability and clean energy, and so it seems like a likely partner. One of the questions I have is how and if and how a sustainability plan would potentially fit into this initiative or not.
So you mean a city sustainability plan?
A citywide sustainability plan, yes. A part of which the transition to more renewable energy sources, but there would be other elements included in that sustainability plan, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to suggest that some of our energy experts might want to mention some ways they've seen this work in the past. But I would say that, I mean, when it comes to filling out the RFP, if you've had discussions. By the way, somebody has not put themselves on mute because we're hearing other voices in the background. So please just double check that, everybody. That when you're doing the RFP, if you've had discussions with the city and you have some sense of their interest in working with you, whether it's focused yet on something specific or whether it's sort of an agreement to work together, that's something that you would put on the RFP,
Sure.
And you might have a sense of what piece of the work you would be doing or you would be supporting, and so that would be the outcomes you're focused on, right? In other words, your piece of the work would be focused on certain outcomes, whereas, as you said, if it's a citywide plan, there might be a set of other outcomes they're focused on that aren't necessarily the ones that this effort would be supporting. That's
Correct.
just off the top of my head.
I'm sorry, that's helpful. One of the things that I was wondering is if helping the city develop its sustainability plan, either through, through some sort of grant funding that we could provide from this initiative, would be something that would fit within the.
It would in my book. I don't see why not. What, John, David, Laura, Patrice, do you have anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, this is David Gard. I would add, I agree with Janet, and I think with energy, the good thing is that energy touches just about every aspect of what we do in our communities and the economy. And so I think one of the things with a community sustainability plan you want to also do on the front end is really try to figure out a mechanism for getting a lot of input from people in the community to find out what their priorities are. And that's what leads different sustainability plans to be very unique and place-based. And so they all, I think, share some common themes, but you'll find a range of different priorities that people emphasize. And so you want to definitely get a sense for that because you want to speak to people's interests. And the other benefit there is that you've got local champions all over on a lot of issues, and you want to give them, identify them and pull them out and empower them to help pull you in the same direction of where they already want to go and they already be working towards. The other thing I would say for sustainability plans, if you use the frame of like the triple bottom line that you're all probably familiar with, environment, economy, kind of the social basket of equity, energy can hit all of those, and so you can use it to kind of frame whatever the energy issue is to what people are most concerned about with the triple bottom line. So for instance, if people in your community really want a carbon reduction plan, it's very easy to connect energy initiatives to that on the environmental side. For the economy, if you want to really focus on developing a resilient community, a resilient economy where like it's place-based, one of the things you can do is, for instance, an energy efficiency program where you can take the savings of money that you get from whatever sector you're working in and redirect that money towards other things, maybe not necessarily in the energy realm, but something else that supports activities along the sustainability plan. And then for the social element, just one example is energy efficiency in the low-income community can really help address health and safety issues in low-income housing.
Thank you, David. That's very helpful.
John, Laura, Patrice, anything else you want to add to that?
Hi, this is John Kinch. A couple thoughts on this. The local jurisdictions, local units of government have mechanisms to advance policy. One of those ways you can use a climate or a sustainability plan is to get that into a commission, for example, which could be a volunteer made up of residents, such as a planning commission or environmental commission. And those commissions then in turn end up advising city council on policy. So what I would say is that there's any number of ways you can kind of introduce the beginnings of a sustainability plan into how local governments make decisions. That'd be one of them. Another one would be working with the master plan or even capital improvement plans that various cities need to go through with their own municipal buildings. Again, keeping an eye on energy savings, opportunities to invest in renewable energy. And as David said, you can have as the common denominator among all this such things as carbon reduction or any number of other metrics. So absolutely, a sustainability plan is a good idea to begin to move forward in a community.
Right, and in fact, it's really hard for a whole community to transition without a shared plan. So, I mean, there's a lot of arguments to be made for why that would be a good investment at the front end of something. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that thinking about what would be some small wins on the energy front besides just having passed the plan. And I think that's something you might want to keep in mind in terms of
sort of the framework we're thinking of is, how can we start this plan to get things started, but what is something that we could use as a small win that would demonstrate the benefits of doing this in our community.
Right, right. Patrice, Laura, anything else you want to say? And then we're going to move on to someone else.
I don't have anything important to add.
Nope, me neither. Sounds good.
All right, well, so just so you know, I've got two hands raised right now, Phil Ellis and Tom Waiwodi from Southeast Michigan. Phil Ellis from, where's Phil from? Phil, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Tom, just so you know you're on deck, Tom. Phil?
Hi, this is Sarna, not Phil, and from Traverse City. That's where we're at, Grand Traverse region. We were just wondering at this table how many letters of inquiry were submitted for this opportunity.
So I'm going to ask Patrice to answer that. Patrice?
There are a total of 14.
And that was considered a healthy number, just so you know. So 14, just absent context, it was considered a healthy number. By, I would say by CMF and by MOT. Wouldn't you say, Andrea?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay. Tom?
Yeah, well, I don't want to clutter up this conversation, but I'd like to throw in an additional opportunity. I'm responding to the sustainability discussion. Some of the people on the phone may be familiar with the Funders Network for Smart Growth and Livable Communities. The Funders Network has a grants program called Partners for Places, which expressly focuses on sustainability and sustainability initiatives at the local level, i.e. community foundations, and it would be rather interesting to couple this grant, the opportunity that we're talking about today, with a Partners for Places grant. I think you might be able to get double mileage from it. So, for example, applying to the Funders Network for a sustainability plan and applying to this process for the energy implementation of that sustainability plan. For those who are not familiar with the Funders Network, it's fundersnetwork.org, and the current cycle is open right now, meaning that they are taking applications as we speak.
Thanks for that, Tom. I think it's a good idea, and I mean, it's another way to sort of say that you're. I mean, if any of you did that, that might be a way to say that you're already trying to leverage some of the activity in another way with another funder. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, we are looking for, when these webinars, we're looking for more questions right now, which you can either put in the chat box or you can raise your hand. We set up these webinars specifically not to be presentations because presentations are already in other webinars that you can watch on your regular time. We put these together to sort of really make people available to you to answer questions about energy, about your ideas, or about the RFP or TA process. So who else has a question? We have a lot of people on the phone. Someone's thinking something. Hello? Anybody? You punch the raise your hand thing in the participant box, or you can chat, put a question in chat. I'm concerned that people thought there was going to... Oh, 2 hands are raised. Yay, Lisa Fernstrom. Please pose your question. Take yourself off mute, though, Lisa. Lisa? Lisa's disappeared from the list. Maureen Radke.
Can you hear us?
Oh, we can hear you now. Lisa?
Okay. It's Stan that's going to ask the question. Go ahead, Stan.
Find us where you're from.
Thank you.
Menominee, Michigan.
Great.
Go ahead, Stan.
All right. My question is, I guess, for Janet. Has it ever been established just what an entity can ask for in terms of resources in the application? Is it $300,000 or, any amount that's workable to finance a plan? What's the parameter here?
It's not a matter of asking for an amount. The successful applicants, when selected, will be provided $100,000 in grants for 3 years. Each year.
I see. Okay. Gotcha.
So if you look at the RFP on page, I think, well, it's in several places on the RFP, and this is laid out on page 3 and 4 of the RFP, and you can also see the particulars there in the narrative questions on page 8 of the RFP, which is on the website.
Okay.
Does that clarify that for you?
So is it fair to say that if we would come up with a proposal that looks smart and you would like, then we are eligible for $100,000 a year for 3 years?
It's not that you'd be eligible for it. If it was accepted, you would be getting $100,000 each year for 3 years, plus some technical assistance funds and some peer learning resources as well.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. That was easy. Maureen Radke, you've got your hand raised. Maureen? Maureen Radke. Unmute yourself. Maureen? All right, Maureen has disappeared, so we're looking for another question or a comment. You can also offer suggestions on what else would be helpful to you. Anybody?
And Janet, this is Travis, and perhaps I should have put my picture up there, but I also wanted to continue your answer to the previous question.
Go right ahead.
And I wanted to just mention that the RFP clarifies that this is a 3-year and possibly renewable grant program from the Mott Foundation. So I think this is the first phase. It could be longer than 3 years that the foundation selected for this cohort participate in this grant pool.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's good. So let me mention that there may be some people who are not connected to the web browser who want to ask a question. So if you do and you're not connected to the web browser, meaning you can't raise your hand, just unmute yourself and ask your question, please. No one? Anyone? No questions. Okay. If you're on the web browser, seriously, any question, any comment? Phil, you've got your hand raised. Come right back.
Yeah, so this is actually Dave Mengebeer sitting in for Phil Ellis. And so one of the reasons we haven't asked any more questions is because we're having kind of a conversation here about, where at least the Grand Traverse Regional Community Foundation and its partners might want to go. And one of the things that is both kind of a real opportunity, but I think also a challenge with this initiative is it's so wide open. And I've had a chance, as have Dan and Sarna, to kind of read through all this material. Allison Mativa, who's actually handling this initiative for the Community Foundation here in Traverse City area. And so we have some insights, but it would be really helpful, I think, for people that are going to apply for technical assistance and that are going to respond formally to the RFP in October, to have more of a sense for what the Mott Foundation's vision is and what CMS vision is for what we want to accomplish. And so, like, for example, in 5 years from now, I realize this is a 3-year kind of initiative, at least initially, but in 5 years from now, what would be an aspiration that Mott and CMF would have for this initiative?
Well, let me just address that and then invite Andrew to comment on this, or Travis or Patrice from our conversations with them. I think, first of all, I think it's a very unusual question in that most often when there's an initiative like this sponsored by a national or regional foundation, the complaint is it's not flexible enough, right? So you're asking questions saying, rein us in, right? Or don't make it so flexible, we don't know what to do. I mean, I actually think you probably do know what to do. But I would say that, my sense is they're looking for, and I think actually David mentioned this a few minutes ago, they're looking for multiple bottom lines. And a primary bottom line that, you won't succeed without reducing carbon emissions in some way, right? And that can be done in a variety of different ways by changing sources of energy or increasing energy efficiency, right? So they're looking for strategies that will have a significant impact in some way on reducing carbon emissions. The other things they're looking for is things that are going to help, I'm going to say this straight out, poor people do better, right? And poor people or what I would call, struggling businesses, what's going to help people living in, working in, or experiencing the effects of a difficult economy do better? That can happen through energy savings. It might happen through job creation because you're creating new jobs in a renewable industry or new businesses in a renewable industry. How does it become something that fuels economic progress and prosperity for people who aren't doing well, but also for the whole economy? I'm not saying only for poor people, but without including some benefits for lower income people. That's where I think the community foundation and community leadership piece of this is most in the heart of, let me say this, Mott, there are two different parts of Mott involved in this. One is the energy part. I don't have the specific names for the divisions, but one's the energy part, one's the community foundation part. And it's taking leadership on this for outcomes that have to do with both of those divisions in Mott. So one of them has to do with carbon reduction, one of them has to do with community foundation playing leadership in the economy doing better for people who are suffering from, challenges in the economy. So the triple bottom line is yes, economy, yes, energy reduction, yes, economic sort of prosperity, and also equity. Are people on the lower ends of the economic spectrum doing better because of what you've done? That's what I would say, and it says that in all the material. It also, if you look at the draft indicators and outcomes, makes that pretty clear. So I don't know if that helps at all, David. Does that clarify at all for you?
Yeah, that's really helpful. And by the way, when I asked my question, my colleagues pointed out I did say both challenges and opportunities. So I'm not complaining about the
you did.
The broad scope of this project, and I think it's very exciting. So
I was just enjoying the ironic moment. That's all, David. Having been around the block a few times. Go ahead.
Janet, can I jump in and
oh, please.
Continue to respond to David's question? This is David Gard. I've got a few thoughts really related to my experience in Oberlin. I spent some time in Oberlin, Ohio a few years back, and you can Google something called the Oberlin Project. That's what I was affiliated with. And it was basically the small town with an ambition to become carbon neutral by 2050, and how are we going to get there? And so a lot of the work that they did before I arrived was to do a lot of community engagement. They had a lot of workshops. They pulled people into the conversation. And they identified everything you can think of across the board, from transportation to waste reduction to energy to, you name it. And, the obvious challenge that I think they had that you share is we can't do everything, and we can't, we have to prioritize. And so I think that is going to be a very community-specific thing. And some of the things that I know that led them to their two main priorities, which I can talk about in a little bit, is, first of all, what does the community already demonstrate that they are concerned about? What are existing initiatives that maybe you can tap into that's already got some momentum and interest that can help kind of give you a tailwind and use some organization and resources that are already in place? And then another thing was, to Janet's point about the economy, and Oberlin happens to be a really interesting place. It's a small town in northern Ohio, very Rust Belt, high unemployment, high poverty rates, but also surrounded by, a lot of farmland where, farmers are also having trouble. And so because of all of this and this really strong desire to try to link the educational assets in the community college, the local college, other kinds of the vocational schools down the road, how do we leverage all these to do some education and training and wrap it into a program where it's hitting on some of the sustainability priorities and, in the end, develop the local economy? And so the two priorities that Oberlin ended up focusing on, one was energy, but more specifically, a lot of old housing stock that had to be upgraded. And so there was an effort. It was kind of 1,000 homes, I think, we wanted to renovate. And so just, insulation and air sealing of old homes. And there was a lot of housing stock, and just figuring out the nuts and bolts of how do you do that. They had an energy advocate that they came up with. It was a program with a local municipal utility in partnership with them, where this individual, really trusted person in the community, could go door to door and to different community events and really get a lot of buy-in from people to do these programs, and a lot of focus on low-income housing. And then the other main initiative was to basically build up a local food economy where there hadn't been one. And that gets to try to utilize the local farmland and what's already being grown and value-added produce and agricultural products. So basically, there's a lot of discussion about food hub, how do you aggregate the demand and also the supply sides of the food economy and do more local buying and sourcing. And it left a lot of gaps in terms of the overall vision that the community had come up with, but it fit, and it was like a priority of steps. So they had their grand plan. They took these two areas that they thought they could really push behind and make a lot of effort in a period of 3 to 5 years, and started there. And then, like I think was also mentioned, they designed in some early wins, and so got people excited that we were actually making progress, but also help people see the longer-term vision in that this is a an initiative that will be ongoing. It's not going to be a 5-year grant project. That's just kind of the start, the kickstart to a much larger community effort.
Patrice or Andrea or Travis, anything you wanted to add to my basic answer there? No?
This is Travis. I would just, to maybe make your point, Janet, really explicit, and I could pit, this is, again, Travis, I'll use Sarah's example from before. So if you were to apply to this initiative and you were to collect that $100,000 and then pass it through to the city without the Community Foundation playing a central role in the community leadership effort around developing that community energy plan, I don't think that would be a proposal that Mott would look fondly on. I think they want the Community Foundation to be playing a central role in that effort. And Sarah, I'm not saying that was what you were proposing, but I just want to kind of draw some contrast there to make it clear that Mott really does want the Community Foundation to play a central role in helping these communities lead community clean energy efforts.
Yeah, and I'll underline that. This is Janet again. That indeed, I mean, from the part of the foundation where one of the program officers is the community philanthropy part of the foundation. So the hope is that this will also strengthen the community leadership muscle of that community foundation to take on other challenging and wonderful and exciting things that are critical to their community.
And this is Andrea.
Andrea.
The one point that I just wanted to kind of add and also underline in what others have indicated is one of the reasons, or probably the reason that this is as open and kind of blanket statement as it is we're not looking for, Mott is not looking for the same proposal from every community that applies. It really is going to look and feel and function differently in every community because they know from their experience working with community foundations that every community and every community foundation is different. That being said, I think Janet outlined and underlined some important key indicators and outcomes of what the goal is, but in terms of what you do, please do not try and figure out or read between the lines of, I know we all do it when we're looking at grant applications of trying to figure out what they're trying to, ask for. It really is, the spirit of it really is meant to say what's going to work in your community.
And I want to make one other point that I think is important because Michigan has the blessings of many different sizes of communities, and when I said significant results, I didn't mean simply by number, right? It's significant from your starting point. That's the way I would argue for it and think about it. So if you're in a small community and you think, well, we'll never reach the significance that a larger community would in terms of, carbon emission numbers because they have more people or they've got more this, that, and the other, just banish that from your mind, at least in my opinion. I think you should. It's significance from where you're starting, right? So I just want to make that point because I think it's important. I think the foundation and certainly the Council of Michigan Foundations is very sensitive to the differences between rural and urban and then sort of small town, small city places. And so I just want to raise that sensitivity is being considered throughout this process. David, your hand is raised again. David, known to us as Phil Ellis.
Right. You can refer to me either as David or Phil for the purpose of this call.
Okay.
So here's another question I have. Is Mott interested in the community foundations leveraging other dollars in addition to the $100,000 grant that would be made over a 3-year period? For example, tapping USDA rural development funds or funds from the Michigan Agency for Energy or other national foundations that are interested in helping states move towards a cleaner energy commitment?
Yes, yes, yes. And I would say that, I wouldn't say it's a requirement, but in year 2 or in 3, you have to partially match the $100,000 you're getting. So it almost is going to require leverage. But I think the way this is designed is meant to not sort of like rule anyone out because they don't have any match or leverage in year 1, right? So I think that leverage is always looked upon by any foundation or any government as a big plus. And I don't know how you would probably do everything you're going to want to do without leveraging some more resources into the pot. So go for it. Gravy.
Well, we're all nodding our heads here, so thank you.
Good. Okay, other questions, comments, suggestions, curiosities, confusions? Raise your hand. I'm going to play the Jeopardy music now. Maybe. Any other thoughts? Do you want me to call on you? I could. What do you think, Andrea? Should I call on a few people?
If people wanted to share a little bit in where they are or, any thoughts that they're having, that might be useful.
And let me note that Andrea put the link to the Funders Network in the chat box for any of you who are looking for that. Okay, Ellen Geisler, do you have a question or a comment? Gail, up in Marquette, anything you want to add, question?
Hi there, this is Shirley up in Marquette. And Gail had to be in a meeting, so I am just taking the best notes that I can.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Shirley.
Thank you.
John Lee, anything you want to offer? At least you show up as John Lee on my screen. Kendra Nelson, any comments or questions from you?
I don't think so.
All right, good. Kendra, thank you for saying hello.
Hi.
LaShawn, is it Mabry or Mabry, LaShawn?
It's Mabry.
Any questions you have?
No, not at this time. I'm sitting in for Adam Kingston.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Taking notes.
Good. Lisa Fernstrom? Lisa, anything?
Yes. Hey, Janet, it's Paula Gazinski. We're all good here.
Okay, good. Maureen Radke?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, cool. No, I don't have any questions at this point. Thank you.
All right. And let's see, Melissa Davis. Did we talk to Melissa Davis or Melissa Kesterson? Either one of you. Anything you want to add?
Hi there.
Which
this
one?
This is Melissa Davis. Is that all right? Is Melissa Kestrin also trying to talk right now?
I don't know, but we've got you. So anything you want to ask?
I guess I'm really happy that you're coming out with this, and I don't have, a question right now, but I thought it might be nice to tell you that we've been doing energy efficiency work up here for 2 years because our community got entered into the Georgetown University Energy Prize, and that's really helped put energy on our radar. It always has been on everybody's radar because our price per kilowatt is really high. Per kilowatt hour. So in that 2-year period, using volunteers and finding people that really need help tightening up their houses, we were able to quantify that we reduced our municipal and residential electricity consumption by 13% in that 2-year period. And Also, similar reductions were noted in gas use too, but I need to backtrack and say we can't take credit for all of that. It just happened to be a good, our effort happened to coincide with our electricity rates, so we're not taking credit for all that 13%, but we did see that 13%, and I think that part of that has been a lot due to working with a lot of the people in the community and getting a really broad, vertical interaction on the whole demographic instead of just like a layered one in different places. And we'd like to really, think about with our group how to continue that. And we're coming up with some ideas, but basically I just wanted to listen to you today and see, the parameters of this project and what your goals were as well. So.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that. I think it'll give a bunch of the other community foundations hope and inspiration. So cool. So Melissa Kesterson, anything you want to add or ask?
Janet, we have a note in the chat box from Melissa that her mic is not working, but she's listening in to the good conversation and questions, but doesn't have any questions right now.
Okay, terrific. And then we've already heard from David, and we've already heard from Sarah Ford, I think. Anything else you want to say, David or Sarah Ford? And we've already heard from Tom. Tom, any final comments from the great city of Detroit, my hometown?
Well, actually, one of the things that we're musing and having conversations with the city about, the city has two programs. They operate independent of each other, but they have the potential for complementing each other within this particular programmatic window. One is called Motor City Match, which focuses on the redevelopment of abandoned or economically challenged commercial corridors, redeveloping commercial areas within neighborhoods. And the other one is a zero-interest loan for housing rehab. That second is HUD money. And so neighborhood organizations, community development organizations working with the city are identifying people who would qualify and who can rehab their houses. In the rehab case, it doesn't necessarily focus on energy. It's literally rebuilding houses that are falling down around people who are currently occupying the houses. And in the Motor City Match case, the focus is principally on revitalizing commercial corridors that are in neighborhoods so that the residents have an opportunity to take advantage of the commercial opportunities that used to exist but don't exist. And I'm trying to figure out how this program could complement or perhaps amplify and maybe even, of course, change both of those programs so that energy gets written into each of them where it currently is not.
Any
included.
ideas on that, John, David, or Laura? David, John, Laura, any ideas?
I don't have any thoughts coming to my mind right just on the top of my head.
I mean, one thing that occurs to me is in the rehab of the homes that are falling apart is, would there be a way to marry this, this initiative to handle the energy piece of that, whereas the other part is handled by another pot of money. So in other words, you would increase the overall amount of money you had because this takes care of all of the energy retrofit of the house.
Yeah, this is John Kinch. My one thought, Tom, is, and I think you know this initiative, the Green and Healthy Homes initiative, or approach to rehabilitating low-income housing with the idea that just solving the energy issues in the home really aren't enough. There's issues around health and safety regarding asbestos or lead paint and so on and so forth. So, and the challenge with that approach is, as Janet was suggesting, is there oftentimes is gap funding necessary to kind of make it all happen at once versus having any number of various well-intended organizations touching a house and not really kind of getting to the final holistic approach to it. So I've thought about that with regard to the community foundations, that perhaps they may, in fact, be able to step in with having a role where they're kind of providing some kind of a gap funding, whereas utilities are going to be only focused on the low-income energy efficiency gains they can make there in those houses because of the state law.
Right.
Mhm.
And also community action agencies have their own limitations on what they can do. There's limitations with HUD, so it becomes kind of what the various pipelines can provide and then where those gaps are. And it would seem that if Community Foundation had some flexibility and some funding, that could be very important in making something like that work.
Right. Thank you.
Right, especially because if the rehab is being done without energy efficiency, it's not going to be helpful to a lot of those residents in terms of their family economies. And one of the stories that we have in the storybook talks about one of the community foundations that we profiled had a green and healthy home initiative where they actually did a lot of marriage of different funding streams in order to do it all at once. So you might want to look back at that. I'm trying to remember, was that Buffalo or who was it? Do you remember, Travis? Or Patrice? I just can't remember off the top of my head which story it was.
Both Buffalo and Iowa did it. Buffalo was an official Green and Healthy Homes, and Dubuque rather, modeled a program based on Green and Healthy Homes.
Mm-hmm. And one of them actually worked into the deal using people who were in reentry from prison to become rehab folks, which gave them jobs, which a whole other thing that would be considered a benefit or an outcome that was worthy. That was Buffalo. So you might want to look at that story and then call the woman at Buffalo who put this all together, Kira Modigliano. She did one of the webinars, and you could listen to that, or you could just call Kara yourself because she's, they're really pros over in Buffalo in putting together that partnership.
I actually know Kara quite well, so
yeah. So you might want to talk to her. So, and that goes for anyone. I mean, you can read those stories and call the people that we're quoting because I'm sure they'd talk to you. Community Foundation people that have done this work, in our experience, are all quite passionate about it, and they're happy to talk to others. And as you know, the culture of community foundations is to happily steal ideas from each other. So please do so. David, your hand is raised again.
Yep, I'm making most of this opportunity. So we're looking at the draft RFP, and there's a section in there on collaboration. And so just sort of a general question about kind of the funders, the Mott Foundation's perspective on, scaling up the impact of these programs or projects by partnering among various Michigan community foundations. What is the foundation's perspective on that? And then sort of more pragmatically speaking, let's say that the Grand Traverse Regional Community Foundation decided to work with other foundations here, community foundations here in this part of the state. Would each of those foundations be receiving the $100,000 grant over the 3-year period, or how would that kind of partnering or collaboration be treated from a funding standpoint?
Right. So this has been the topic of a lot of discussion because there were a lot of questions about this during the comment period on the RFP. And the way I would bottom line it is that the Mott Foundation as well as the Council of Michigan Foundations are quite interested in collaboration, but it's really hard at this juncture in this effort to judge, collaborations through applications. And so it makes more sense for them at this point to have individual community foundations that want to be a lead actor in this, in their communities or regions, to put in separate applications. And the sense is that really in the first year of this initial 3-year effort, the first 6 months is going to be really, devoted to helping you really figure out how you're going to use the resources and giving you time to plan that. I mean, you're doing some planning and exploration now, but to really put the stuff together, I think Mott knows is going to take a little more time. So maybe in the process of the foundations that are selected really doing their sort of, this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to do, and maybe we have these neighbors interested in it too. I mean, maybe there's some natural sort of collaboration thing that will emerge because of what you've decided to do in your communities. But it seems really important that there be, as I think David mentioned earlier, some engagement of your community and residents to figure out what's going to make the most sense where you are in your community before, and I don't mean this in any pejorative way, a grand collaboration is started. I mean, so let's start from the ground up and see where collaborations make sense from an efficiency standpoint, an impact standpoint, or whatever. And I think Mott's interested in being supportive of that, but it's hard to sort of figure out at this juncture, looking at a collaboration on a piece of paper, right? So have the individual community foundations apply, and where collaborations emerge, or where, where you decide to do more collaboration locally is going to be, we'll just see what emerges. Was that confusing, or do you get it?
No, I think that's good. I would just say it sort of seems like a two-edged sword, right? Because if, let's say, we decided to partner with the Petoskey Harbor Springs Community Foundation, or we wanted to, and we believe that some kind of partnership would result in a more significant reduction in CO2 emissions in the state, but they decided to do something completely different, right? Then the ability to kind of scale the project up and have a more significant impact is really going to be limited, because we're sort of doing good things individually and within our own regions or communities, but really not kind of getting the multiple effect by agreeing on a broader collaboration up front. So I would just submit, I'm not arguing that the approach that CMF and the Mott Foundation is proposing is wrong. I'm just saying that there is another side to the coin.
Right, and I just want to acknowledge that everyone, I think, working on this understands that other side of the coin, but also wants to make sure that individual community foundations are committed to this, right? So, and it's hard, once again, as I said, before you really have a plan for what you're going to do, it's hard to really know whether a collaboration is the way to do it, right? It's sort of like it's choosing your method before you know what you're trying to do. Patrice, were you about to say something? Sorry.
No, not me. It was someone else.
Okay.
This is Maureen. I'd like to jump in when I can.
Sure, Maureen, go ahead.
Okay. I'm just sitting here listening, and we are very early on in our stages of developing anything, and I can really see what David is saying. I mean, we are kind of used to the network we have up here, which is a very rural area in northern Michigan. And I was interested in the project that involved the Community Action Agency, because our Community Action Agency up here services, I'm not sure, like 5 or 9 counties or something like that, a huge area, and we're all in the same one, Grand Traverse and Charlevoix and Emmett, where Petoskey is. They serve, one agency serves all of us, and they are in the business of rehabbing homes. Now, I'm not fluid in everything they do, but I know they do that, and I'm not sure if they have any energy efficiency component to it or not, though. So in this case, this is working the opposite, where the collaboration is already there because the major leading nonprofit doing that work is already doing that work.
Well, I encourage you to look at question 9 on the RFP, which is an optional question.
Okay.
And it says this RFP requires individual applications for foundations and or affiliates that want to participate. However, several foundations indicated in their letter of interest that they may want to collaborate during the initiative. And it just sort of then asks you, if you are thinking this makes sense, please describe the activities or aspects of the initiative for which you think collaboration will help. And then how would each activity or aspect of collaboration you describe create efficiency and or increase create clean energy impact? So there's an opportunity for you to sort of like present what you think makes sense here if that's the way you want to go. That doesn't mean it's going to change at this juncture, and I want to underline at this juncture, meaning year one, how Mott is likely to fund CMF to do, how Mott and CMF are likely to sort of make their selection. But you know, there's a lot of apples and oranges in collaborations versus individual foundations. So the decision was made to start with individual foundations, but to listen to people's case for collaboration. Okay? I'm not sure I can say anything beyond that at this point. Andrea, Patrice, Travis, anything you want to add? Hearing nothing?
I guess,
go ahead.
I guess the one thing that just in terms of the thinking and again, you know, not knowing exactly what the future might hold, but the dollars that are available are, you know, the dollars that are available. So if we are, you know, just knowing that a collaborative regional approach, you know, we wouldn't have the way it looks right now, we would not have the dollars to make the Mott is really looking at making the impact in these communities. And you know, collaboration does take time and it takes additional resources. And if there is an approach that you see that could be efficient with the amount of dollars that are available, then put that in your application. But we are looking for those individual applications from each community foundation so we can look at the impacts that would be had.
Yeah, and the one other thing I would say is if you think there's a good argument for it, do some research on it now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Other questions? So Maureen, Maureen or David, I still have your hand raised. Did you just not turn them off, Andrea?
Right.
Or do you have other questions? Other comments?
Not at this time, thank you.
You're welcome. Not trying to tamp it, just trying to sort of start with the individual foundations and then you know, really focusing in their community and building up to the collaborations that make the most sense, really. Okay. Any other questions? I think I went through everyone, although let's see, Laura Sherman, I'm not sure she's on screen. Laura, are you on the phone? Is there a question you have? Oh no, Laura, you're there. You're there. That's right. You're on the screen. What am I saying? Too many things going on. Forgive me, Laura. Thanks a lot. Any other questions? Going once? Or comments? Going twice? Or cases to be made? Going 3 times? All right, Andrea, I'm going to turn it back to you to close out then.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Janet. Thank you to all of our presenters, Laura, David, Patrice, John, and Travis. Thank you all for joining us today and providing your thoughts and expertise. Thank you to all of you that joined and are doing this work in your communities, and we look forward to further communication with you. This recording will be put up on our initiative webpage, and that's michiganfoundations.org. It's under the Grant Programs tab and Clean Energy Grants, or you can just search Clean Energy, and it will pop up in the search results, and you can